Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all those who connected almost on time. We've given 3 minutes, so I think we don't want to waste any of your time, and others will, I'm sure, join as soon as they can. Before I say anything further, just remind you, and hope you can all see my slide on the screen, but we are the usual housekeeping rules and good practices that as with all European Commission projects, we will use a recording facility for this webinar, so I hope that's not a problem for any of you. And if you're not speaking, please turn your camera and your microphone off, like that we don't get too many interruptions. And clearly, if you want to ask questions during the live sessions, then you can switch both of those on. So that's the sort of housekeeping framework for all of you. My name is Mark Pattinson. I'm from the GAC Group, and we are the coordinators of this European project, Protect. And hopefully you know what it's about, otherwise you wouldn't have signed up. But you can see on this slide the sort of strap line that we're all about procuring innovative climate change services. And to do that, we've obviously got the support of the European Commission and their Horizon Europe framework program. But more importantly, we've got an excellent consortium that not only gives us European coverage, but also coverage of all the key issues that we're likely to encounter in dealing with climate change, with public procurement, with innovation, and working with the businesses and companies across Europe that will deliver innovative services. So we'll have some of the speakers today from the consortium, but I think because they're doing such a good job in this consortium, I will mention them all. Aerospace Valley, based in the south of France. Corvus, Netherlands, specialists in innovation procurement. Urada, a network of European development agencies. And from the climate side, we've got the Climate Alliance, we've got Climate Kick, we've got public authorities represented through different networks, in this case, the City of Haarlem, and you'll hear later from Valentina. And we've got institutions of research and technology providers, VTREC, Institute, and Gecko Systema. So we are all working together. And in this first webinar for the project, we're going to try and give you some information, but more importantly, we're trying to engage with you so you can participate and help deliver the ambitious project that we have launched earlier this year. So let's see if we can start moving some slides forwards, Mark. It would be helpful. The agenda. So I'm the welcome warm-up man, so that's I won't keep you too long. More importantly, and I think why you're connected, is that we hope to showcase some reality and some success stories with our two keynote speakers. And the first one will be from the Slovenian Ministry of Environment and Spatial Planning, so Tatjana Urina Valjevec. So very good to have you with us. And the second speaker, member from our consortium, Valentina Schippers from the City of Haarlem and coordinator of the Urban Agenda. And they've done an awful lot of work on innovative and responsible public procurement. You'll then get to hear in a short round table some insights from 3 of the project partners, and then we'll have a chance for you to exchange with them, other partners, if you have other questions, but more importantly, hear from you what are some of the key challenges that you face on these issues of public procurement for environmental observation. Some say earth observation. Both are acceptable in this little round webinar. And then my colleague Eva will give you a bit more hands-on advice and let's say suggestions on how you can stay involved with us and contribute to deliver this project. And we will finish at 15:15, so we won't keep you longer than we need. So the context, I think we don't need to go into this first big block. We know the challenges, we know the targets that European governments have set for climate neutral by 2050. But what's more important for us is to look in the way in which existing data, existing resources, whether they come from satellites, whether they come from intelligent systems and tools on the ground, but looking at data-driven support for climate services, innovative climate services. And we know it's a growing market. We know there's huge opportunities from the research, from the technology and the company perspective, but they need to be better aligned with the opportunity that public procurement provides. Today, the public sector in its broadest definition accounts for 14% of the EU's GDP. So it's a huge opportunity to challenge those resources and to put them to work in, let's say, alignment with a European objective, which is this climate neutrality by 2050. So one of the tools that the European Commission is working towards is a pre-commercial procurement tool, which will be launched perhaps end of this year, but certainly beginning of next year. And so our project is building information, building networks, building sort of anticipatory support for this PCP, which by involving yourself with Protect, not only do you get insights to the future policy and funding mechanisms, which I think is of interest, but you also help shape this particular initiative, and that's important. And at the moment, different initiatives, isolated initiatives, means that there is not enough connectiveness in the work that's being done in this field. And so one of our objectives in Protect, and the Commission is very keen that we engage and find better ways for inter-regional, cross-border cooperation to collect public demise demand and make it more, let's say, cost-effective for solution providers and more cost-effective for the public purse to buy solutions that they couldn't necessarily buy on themselves. So in this last little block there, we see how Protect will feed into, and that's why we've got a particularly short timescale. We've got just 2 years to deliver this ambitious agenda to enable the Commission to launch what we think will be a PCP procedure with about between 15 and 20 million available. So that's an important message I wanted to share with you. My next slide, I've already mentioned the 2-year time frame, so you don't need to hear that again. Perhaps interesting message here is the focus in terms of the climate service domains. We've got quite a broad range, which means that most of you in your cities, regions, or your research institutes will be able to align and provide inputs into the work that we'll be delivering. As you can see on this slide, we're going to be working with the marine and coastal environments, the energy and utilities, the urban, the smart cities. And for your information, we'll have a big series of events at the Barcelona Smart Cities event in November later this year, but Eva will tell you a bit more about that. Agriculture and forestry, and then the civil security protection. And we have only got to look back to August and see all the fires that were raging from Portugal to Spain to even in the UK, which is normally known for its heavy downpours. So these are the areas where we think we will be able to add most value with your support. Oh, sorry, I've gone one too fast. My last real slide is to say, hopefully you're joining us today because not only you're interested in the topic, but you want to actively participate in developing this agenda. And we like to sort of describe it as, if you join the Protect program, the support, the mechanisms, workshops, then you will become a forerunner in helping the PCP process advance. You'll also be in a position to influence and shape future policy and tools. And so if you come from the sort of the city region procurement background, this is the place for you. Connecting with your innovation, your environmental and your energy services within those organizations to together shape commercial and pre-commercial procurement. SMEs and larger companies that have the services or want to develop the services to provide the climate adaptation and mitigation tools and services for those clients are clearly a good target for us. And then the more generic stakeholder initiatives, networks that are linked to the Earth environmental and observation data, so the providers of data, to help shape what SMEs can deliver and also help deliver the type of services the users, the end users, the cities, the regions, or other public bodies. that hopefully has given you an insight to what Protect is about. One way you can immediately contribute is that we've got an online survey that will give you a first opportunity to provide your inputs and shape the work that we will be doing. Protect is a bottom-up service, in the sense we will adapt to the needs that come from our survey. So you can, I'm sure Eva can put this link in the chat, so you can make sure you've got it on your immediate tools to complete it. Doesn't take too long, and if you've got questions later on, we've got our partners from Corvus who will be able to tell you more. And so Annabelle, get ready for some questions. So last slide is just to tell you what's happening next. So 2 keynotes, as I said, we'll each try in challenging 15 minutes, give you some insights, and also just say it is possible. It has been implemented elsewhere, and the things are moving, and we're trying to accelerate and give you, let's say, some insights to what has worked elsewhere. So great pleasure. If I can now allow Tatjana Orina Valjacek from the Slovenian Ministry of Environment and Spatial Planning to give you her insights into why public procurement is a way for public authorities to adapt to mitigate climate change. Tatjana, I will now stop sharing, and hopefully you can show your slides. If you have any problems, Eva has them ready. So over to you.
Thank you. Can you hear me well and see my slides?
Perfectly, yeah, thank you.
Perfect,
okay,
thank
great.
you.
Thank you for allowing me to join.
Your screen disappeared. Sorry, can you put up your slides again?
Disappeared? Oh, sorry. Is it okay now?
Not yet.
No? Okay, let me see what's going on.
If not, we can share your slides.
Or you can try Control-Shift-E. That also works sometimes.
How about now?
Yes, seems, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
just if you can put the full screen, it would be great. Thank you.
Okay.
15 minutes, floor is yours, Tatjana.
Thank you. I'm glad to join you today to share some of our experience in green public procurement. So for the beginning, to answer on the question, which was the one the moderator introduced me. So why the green public procurement is the right answer to climate challenge? We have defined that the GPP with quite some public purse behind it is the right tool to try to adapt and mitigate the climate change. So it was in Slovenia part of climate actions from some years ago. And now we have a great opportunity to implement it even further and try to put our share in these actions and try to answer the challenges which are all around us, especially in the Mediterranean countries, which were mentioned before, and Slovenia is unfortunately this year among them. So after quite some months of severe drought this summer, and already from the spring on, we are now experiencing floods. So who doesn't believe into climate change, I think must be blind or deaf or both of it. So quite some problems, and we will have to find many solutions and many actions, and the GPP can be one of them. So when we are procuring green products and services, this means that the products will in their lifetime cause less emissions, less negative consequences for the environment, less impacts, and when they're using water, they will use less water than ordinary products. So with GPP in Slovenia, we are actually implementing our regulation. which we have now in order for more than 10 years. And it covers 22 products and services which have to be procured green or even circular. These range from electricity, road vehicles, tires, buildings, office equipment, and so on. So our team, which is partly working for the Care for Climate Life project, offers professional assistance to procurers in Slovenia. And we are also trying to cooperate with other key stakeholders like producers, suppliers, which are very important, because if we don't have supply, then we don't have possibility to buy good products. This experience also helps us to cooperate with stakeholders and other ministries when changing and adapting legislation. These are all our main activities. As I mentioned, especially this year, we have a lot of demonstration how climate change affects our lives. And in Slovenia, we have made a few years ago a quite thorough assessment how the climate will be in Slovenia until the end of the 21st century. And the results are not very optimistic. So we will experience even further temperature changes. They will rise. And as they have rose in the last years or even more. So this increase will continue, and it will affect our daily lives and our how our sectors, our production will operate. The next big change, which we will probably see further, is that precipitation is changing. It's decreasing. Slovenia is known as a green country with lots of water, lots of rivers, lots of underground water. But it seems that this year has shown us that it's no longer so. It's no longer so in every time of year. So we will have to adapt seriously and also try to mitigate this change as soon and as good as possible. We are losing snow, of course, as other parts of Europe and the world. So unfortunately, we are experiencing drought already in spring sometimes. So this is immediate call for action. GPP, of course, is a climate action because with this money available and the way how we can use this money can change things. The public authorities are the one who decide how the market will be, and we have done a thorough analysis of impacts of GPP in Slovenia and found out that we can reduce emissions and look for better solutions in this way. So when we are deciding how to use public money, we have, of course, first analyze the market, communicate with the market, and look for better solutions. This means cooperation with suppliers and strengthening also the market in this way. And when where is the place for the innovation? Where is the opportunity for innovation in GPP? Sometimes when we are looking for environmentally better solution, it comes out that there is no solution on the market. Or we just don't know how to meet some of our own needs. So that would be better for the environment, better for the emissions. And sometimes we want to engage a service instead of buying a product. And these are all questions where we can look for the innovation and try to find the suitable process or kind of procurement to buy innovation after all. So our team at the Ministry of the Environment is working especially on capacity of the experts at our ministry, other ministries, and further on the capacity of procurers. We managed to employ 3 new GPP experts through the project. And we are now working on capacity building of our procurers here in Slovenia and also cooperating with some other countries. Our main work is to offer workshops and to train procurers to be to be better in procuring green and circular, to be better equipped, to have better papers, better models, and to lose less time preparing this documentation. So far, we had over 30 workshops and over 1,030 participants, which we now count as being capable of procuring green. We also offer very active help desk. So we answer the phone and we reply to the emails. If we know the answer that this is very quickly. Otherwise, we ask for help from other experts, from legal or from different ministries or organization. I mentioned before that we have done a thorough analysis on what are the impacts of GPP here in Slovenia. So the first one was ready this year in June, and we are planning to repeat it in 3 years to see what are the changes. So what impact does our work have on GPP and the climate? So this analysis first looked at the market share of the implemented GPP in Slovenia. So what does it mean? What kind of products were bought? What kinds of services were bought? And what does this mean on the overall market here in Slovenia? And then we focused on three product groups, and looked thoroughly what the impact of procuring them green has on actually environment and emissions. These products were electrical and electronic office equipment, road vehicles, and buildings. We focused, of course, on environmental impacts and what does GPP mean as a tool for the environmental protection, and the emissions, mainly CO2 emissions. So the indicators chosen were emission reduction, energy savings, and water savings when it gets to the electronic and electrical devices. And when looking at these indicators, we have found out that when we are comparing GPP purchases to ordinary purchases of the electronic and electrical devices, we can see that GPP devices and equipment can save a lot of energy. You can see these numbers here, GPP on the left and baseline, that means ordinary equipment. And on the right, what are the savings when we buy energy efficient equipment. We also calculated what does that mean in CO2 emissions. And we witness quite some savings in the lifetime, of course. So this data can help us to prove that GPP is efficient. And also when talking to the policymakers, we can prove that it can in long term, even in short term, represent significant energy savings, significant money savings, and better CO2 footprint of public services. One of representative results of our analysis also show that there are significant savings through the years. So when we look at the last 3 years, which were analyzed, there are great numbers of savings. Especially
one minute left.
Okay, thank you. I'm coming to the end. Thank you.
I thought so. Thanks.
So what does mean most for many politicians, or if we go lower on the regional or local level for the mayors, when we say that the GPP saves millions, that rings a bell to everybody. So this analysis is good for us to see if we're working on in the right field, and to the politicians and policymakers as well. Okay, these are some other activities of our projects, and maybe one which is very efficient outcome of our work is that we also prepare a model tender documentation which can be used by the procurers. And so far we have prepared the packages for the furniture, tires, office equipment, buildings, vehicles, and textile. So this is ready to use and ready to adapt documentation, which can be used here in Slovenia by every public procurer. So these were our activities in short.
So we gave you a big challenge, Tatjana, to share what is an enormous amount of work, and I think everybody listening to you will see that providing these indicators and hard facts and data enables you to sell the story of the impact and the important results that such a GPP policy works. So very glad you were able to showcase those results, and we will certainly be reaching out to you in the next events as a means that it works. There are some real hard facts that can demonstrate even the most climate, let's say, resistant public procurement agent. So that's an interesting message. So thank you. We are now going to move to our second speaker. Pleasure to have Valentina Schippers with us from the City of Haarlem and many other networks. But Valentina, the floor is yours. If you can share your slides, and I'll give you a 2-minute warning.
Thank you very much, Mark, for your introduction. I'm very happy to be with you today. Just a second, I'm going to the first slide. My name is Valentina Schippers. I'm a coordinator of this Urban Agenda Partnership, also partner in this wonderful consortium of very enthusiastic people who would like to make a difference. Today, I will tell you more about some practices of Metropolis region of Amsterdam and City of Haarlem. What is the relationship between those two? Metropolis region of Amsterdam is a region with 32 local public authorities, cities and towns around Amsterdam, 2 provinces and 1 transport company. And City of Haarlem is one of the 32 municipalities, and together we have defined ambitions to become climate neutral and to become circular and to achieve a lot of sustainability. And because we're working together, it helps us also to be a forerunner and to achieve more in all these towns and cities, provinces, and transport organization. Before I start with some practical examples, I would like to mention that within the Urban Agenda Partnership Network, I'm coordinating. We developed an e-learning module is free of charge, so everyone can use it. And I just shared a link in the chat, so please check it, and you feel also free to share it with your network, with your colleagues. You don't even need to have an account to use it. One specific module I would like to mention. There are 7 modules in this e-learning, but one is very interesting, is legal framework, and legal framework of innovation procurement. So it means that for each innovation procedure in procurement or innovation tool in procurement, you can use conform EU legislation. We made it by using roadmaps and infographics in order to make legal information that is sometimes a bit complicated, in order to make it more visual and more attractive and understandable for end users. So just check it, and if you have any questions, you can also, of course, contact. Now back to concretely examples of metropolis region of Amsterdam and city of Haarlem. As I mentioned, the climate adaptation is very important for whole region of Amsterdam, and we defined and we work with the basic climate adaptation security level for buildings. Why for buildings? Because we see it as an important part of urban living, and it's also a big challenge. So that's why we started with these buildings, and we are also coordinating this working group on the climate adaptation of the buildings in the whole metropolitan area of Amsterdam. So we defined 4 security, basic security levels. It's first water overflow, drought, heat, and floods. What is the difference between water overflow and floods? Floods are because of increasing water level the river, for example, or tsunami. Water overflow is due to heavy rainfalls, for example. Droughts and heats difference. Drought not mean necessarily that it's also high temperature. Drought means, in fact, there is water shortage. With a high temperature or low temperature, doesn't matter, just not enough water or humidity. And heat, of course, high temperature, and as Tatiana also mentioned in her wonderful presentation just before my presentation, this is a big issue in Slovenia, but also in all other countries in the world. We also include nature inclusiveness, biodiversity, and resilience by design. I will tell more about it. I will just try to make this. I see I can do it. Yes. Is the resilience by design. If we are making new, developing new regions in the urban area, in the cities, towns, we are looking to different aspects and to design of the areas. This is one of the challenges, and another challenge is to adapt to more climate adaptation already existing buildings and urban areas. But just to show you how does it work in order to become more climate adaptive. For example, we make green-blue corridors. Green means trees, flowers, plants, so on, and blue means water. So and because it creates it's better for environment of the urban areas, but also helps to cool air when it passes over shaded surface water, to make it more livable in the urban areas when in times of heat, high temperatures. Also make ventilation and making kind of corridors in order to reduce latent heat. We make we design also buffer zones to create additional water storage for extremely droughts, for example. And the ground, we elevate ground, and it helps to prevent water overflow, for example. But the elevated ground can also help to flow forward the water, too much water, to the storage areas, buffer zones for additional water storage. Also, we make a channel system, a canal system, and integrate them with the channels or water parts in the urban area. Okay. So the next one, and just to give some ideas or inspiration, some practical examples as well. How does it work in practice? The right picture is in Amsterdam. And what can you do to prevent it? For example, if you're going to build new buildings, to raise buildings above the ground. We use also so-called wadis, and wadi is this one. I don't know if you see where I'm moving. So it's actually a place where by heavy rainfalls the water can be absorbed, and during the drought periods they can give humidity back. So it's very good not also for not only for water overflows but also by droughts. Design, as I mentioned, water barriers, like for example here on this picture. Some ideas about the how to deal with drought. On the right side, you see this wadi. On the left side is kind of scheme of this wadi, this solution. And on the right side is a picture. How does it look in real life? So actually, it's green. It's very fine to have these wadis between buildings. In the urban area, because it's green, looks nice, and at the same time it helps to, like a sponge, it helps to be climate adaptive. Also use rain borel to collect rainwater, also to have these corridors between in the urban areas to help prevent droughts. And heat, and in this case high temperatures. We are experimenting a lot with green roofs, not green painted, of course, but with a kind of sedum, kind of plant. It grows on the roofs or walls, and it absorbs humidity and water, and it's also perfect isolation material, and helps to keep building cool during high temperature periods. Also more green and more trees, more water, as I already mentioned, green-blue corridors by designing of the urban areas, and of course isolation, and there are much more practical examples to do that, but just to give a short impression of that. Thank you very much. I'm stopping sharing. if you have any questions, please, you can put it on the chat or send me an email.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Valentina. Perfect timing. We had 30 seconds left, so it's excellent. Indeed, some of you have used the chat to ask questions. I think there's one for you, Tatiana, so if you can maybe answer the participant or deal with it offline, but please don't hesitate to ask our two speakers there. Okay,
I will
so
answer in chat with the link, if that's okay.
that is perfect. That's perfect.
Okay,
And
great.
then other people can access it as well. So that's very
Great.
kind.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. So the again, for Valentina, you can use the same methods. And the next part of our agenda was we asked 3 of our consortium members to develop some further insights to some of the questions that we're asking ourselves and the Commission are asking that we thought we'd share with you and share their knowledge. So Eva, are you going to put the slide online for the questions?
I am, yeah, just a second.
Okay, and I'm sure I can introduce the 3 speakers, but we've got there we go, coming up. While we're waiting for the right side, we've got Tam Lee from the Climate Kick, who will start us off in the debate, and then we want to move the slide to the question, Eva, perhaps. Here we are. Yeah. So and then Annabelle, who I already introduced from Corvus, who's will take the second slot. And then Stefano from the Ecosystema will give us more the expert perspective. So each of you have got 4 or 5 minutes to give a first reaction, and then the audience can also ask some questions. So Tantan, the floor is yours, and the questions we're looking at are on the screen there, so I won't bore you by repeating it. And I know you're an experienced speaker. You'll be able to give us some insights into what lies ahead. Over to you, Tamtan.
Thank you, Mark. Yes, the joke is that I'm a fossil person in an organization trying to get rid of fossils. So that's what experience does to you. So if you allow me, I'll take a step back from the question and look at the latest EU context without repeating what Tatiana Rini-Valjavec and Valentina Striper-Sopajko have been saying before from the concrete viewpoint of front-running countries and metropoles. So as you know, 5 missions were set up by the European Commission to pull the funding, the policies, the regulations in support of Europe's transformation to a greener, healthier, more inclusive and resilient continent. And structuring steps forward were made in the past year. So for instance, the mission Climate Neutral Smart Cities launched a call of expression of interest for 100 larger European cities that target climate neutrality by 2030, which is tomorrow. That's a daunting challenge, and yet more than 360 cities responded to that call. And likewise, the mission adaptation to climate change convinced more than 100 regions and communities to sign its charter towards climate resilience also by 2030. So the very fact that so many public authorities decided to take up the challenge is a major turning point. Why? Because these 2030 objectives cannot possibly be reached simply by increasing climate actions the way they are currently led. And this is mostly within existing organizational and sectoral silos with their own targets and indicators. So if we know that if each silo optimizes its climate actions in isolation, the sum of those efforts shall fall dramatically short of 2030 targets. So what it means is that hundreds of public authorities are intent on designing and implementing their climate transition in terms of systems transformation, which entails, among others, deeply rethinking their governance, the decision-making processes, and breaking the organizational silos. But all of this is in its early stages. What we believe is that there is no turning back. And EU and national public bodies will have an essential role to play, but subnational levels are no less important. For instance, 90% of the climate change adaptation measures are undertaken by local and regional authorities. EIT Climate Kick, for instance, is leading the Net Zero Cities program with 34 organizations, including networks of European cities and regions, to manage the cities mission and bring together with the mission cities all knowledge that is relevant to achieving net zero by 2030. Likewise, the PEERS project, which is still under grant agreement preparation, will support the mission adaptation regions and communities to design and implement their regional resilience journeys. So coming back to the question itself, 2030 targets and even 2040 or 2050 for the not late runners, but the followers, must be supported by much higher, more systematic use of climate services that transform Earth observation, other data, information, knowledge to support climate change adaptation, mitigation, and disaster risk management. Currently, in most cities and regions, some units use climate services, but in general, they address very specific needs, and only those where they were able to clearly formulate the demand in ways that reach service providers that might address at least part of that demand. And one of the aims of Protect, I think, is to help public authorities move from this situation where the needs are met in a very partial and scattered way to one where they would fully leverage the capacity of the whole market of climate services to support them in their climate net zero and resilience pathways. So Protect aims to provide them with a better overview of climate regulations and policies in the 5 broader application domains that you presented, and to share intelligence on the market of climate services, which is still maturing and difficult to navigate, and to enable teams leading on climate efforts within public authorities to engage other divisions and stakeholders with usable insights on why they need climate services and where those could be relevant to their needs. So that's about helping them build the internal capacity to aggregate clear, realistic needs for climate services at the level of whole cities and regions, but also to work in other European public procurer networks that have common needs, engage in pilots, other activities around shared innovation, procurement challenges, and all this in order to increase clarity and critical mass on demand across Europe that can in turn orient and unlock the climate services market. So, of course, we're aware that teams within public authorities have, let's say, very limited bandwidth. And the baseline of knowledge about climate change and climate services is very variable. So our support shall have to take account of those limitations. So what do we expect from public authorities? I think whether a city or a region is working with EU missions, the game is changing for all across Europe. And what we need from them is that they identify the full range of their objectives that might be climate dependent, not just the obvious ones, and open up to their current gaps to meet those objectives. And then they join, us and the community of Protect to understand together how a better informed, more systemic and integrative analysis of their needs can concretely allow them to better formulate their demand, and thereby help the climate services market in return to address that demand much more effectively. And I'm really glad you didn't cut my mic, so it should be fine.
I wouldn't do that.
That's fine.
Thanks for that first step towards bringing together what you highlighted clearly, the advanced users and the beginners. I mean, we mustn't forget that the community has a lot of experience, and you highlighted the 100 that are front runners within the charter, but there are a lot more municipalities that are learning, hence the need to bring them together to launch joint initiatives, launch joint calls for services and solutions. So I think the work that you're doing in the climate kick is essential, and part of Protect's job is to bring together the different networks and not reinvent anything, because a lot has already been done. But we know it's different levels of abilities, and there's a step up from many communities. The question we asked Annabelle, who comes from Corvus Procurement Services, is, it's the heart of our project. How does this notion of innovation procurement, and it seems such an easy little phrase, but in the reality, what difference and what ability can that procurement process help deliver on climate change? So, Annabelle, we want to give us some insights to share with our group today.
Yes, of course. Can you hear me well? Yeah? Okay, perfect. So first, I would really like to thank you for having me here. It's really exciting to be on the first webinar from Protect. So again, thank you. And since time is running, I will directly address the question. of innovation procurement as a relevant lever for climate change adaptation and mitigation? So this is an interesting question because indeed innovation procurement can play a key role in tackling the impacts of climate change. So it can be that new innovative solutions can support local entities in adapting to climate change. And it can also be that innovation procurement can support the joint efforts of several countries, of several regions to mitigate climate change. And in this regard, I think it is important to address two different aspects, right? First, the two approaches to climate change, and then what do we understand as innovation procurement? It is very basic, but if we are going to see the equation, we need to understand both sides of the equation. So I'm not going to dwell into this because I don't believe in intrusivism, and here we have real experts in climate change adaptation and mitigation. But very briefly, climate change adaptation means to adapt to the already existing climate change. So clear examples are behavioral shifts. So for example, we as citizens change our behavior. For example, we are more mindful about food waste, how we use water, these kind of things. It can also be large infrastructures, things that, for example, Valentina was mentioning. So building defenses against the increasing sea level rises, floods in cities, these kind of things. And then on the other hand, we have climate change mitigation. And in mitigation, what we try to do is to reduce and stabilize the level of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. So we are attacking the source of the problem. And here clear examples would be, for example, to increase the use of renewable energies or to increase the size of forests, right? So now on the one side, we have the climate change adaptation and mitigation measures, and now we have to understand innovation procurement. And in innovation procurement, what happens is that the demand side goes to the markets and pulls from the market technologies to solve problems they have. So the idea is that instead of the technology providers push their solutions, push their innovations into the market, we have the public sector going to the market and having solutions tailored to their needs. So in this case, public buyers purchase cutting-edge technologies to address their mid to long-term challenges, in this case related to climate change. Very important also for you to understand also the PROTECT project is that there are two different modalities in innovation procurement. We have pre-commercial procurement, which is what we are preparing in this PROTECT project, a future PCP, which is the purchase of R&D services in a competitive phased approach. And then we have PPI, public procurement of innovative solutions. And we are here, what happens is that there is a solution or in the market, but not widespread, or really close to the market, but needs minor adaptations. And then the public buyer acts as a sort of launching customer to buy this solution. So now that we have both sides of the equation, innovation procurement can indeed play a key role in tackling climate change in both modalities, so adaptation and mitigation. And the key is to understand the needs of the entity. So what kind of climate changes are the entities going to face? See if there are other entities that share this climate change need so that we can join forces, find synergies, go to the market, assess what the market already has to offer in terms of climate services. And if there are no existing solutions, then we launch a pre-commercial procurement to develop this solution. And this is exactly what we aim to do with this PROTECT CSA. We are following a step-by-step procedure in order to assess the needs of the entities in 5 different application domains, see what the market has to offer in these 5 application domains, and if there is no already a solution already existing on the market, using Earth observation data, develop new climate services that tackle these needs, and then launch a pre-commercial procurement. So now the logical question would be...
1 minute.
Oh, okay, so very quickly. The logical question would be if innovation procurement actually works to tackle climate changes. And of course, we have already seen several examples from Tatiana and Valentina, so I'm not really going to dwell into that. But I wanted to share with you, and I'm just going to copy paste some links in the chat, more examples of PCPs tackling climate change, and also in the field of Earth observation. So really interesting. For example, the first link that I copy paste here is marine Earth observation, a PCP that is already done, but it's really interesting because it uses Earth observation data in order to develop new technologies in the field of maritime awareness. So really like PROTECT, but PROTECT is broader because we have 5 application domains. So just so you have a little idea. We also have the SmartMed project next to links in the chat. And wait, Poseidon, another link I'm copying pasting there. So I think it's interesting for you to have all this information so that you really see how innovation procurement can really help find new solutions, new technologies to address climate change in a more efficient and less costly way. And the last chat link that I wanted to add is the Artificial Intelligence for City, which is also a really interesting project, PCP, of course, using artificial intelligence to reduce the carbon footprint, to ensure carbon zero emissions. So really interesting. And there was one second part of the question, really quickly, sorry, Mark, about a methodology to scope needs, to assess what the market has to offer, to launch, to conduct state-of-the-art analysis, draft business case, and then decide of your best procurement strategy. That could be a PCP, for example. There is a European methodology, that's the EAFIP initiative. I'm also going to copy this in the chat. And just so you know, this initiative is from the European Commission. It was launched in 2015. The idea is to support public buyers when implementing innovation procurement, but it's not only that, because it has developed a methodology to prepare for a future PCP. And this is exactly the methodology that we are using in this Protect case support action, so that when we launch the PCP, when we prepare for the upcoming call and launch an actual pre-commercial procurement, we ensure the success of this PCP, following this step-by-step approach. And I'm so sorry for taking a bit longer, but yeah,
not a problem, Annabelle. I think the first two speakers and the links we've seen there just highlight the value that we hope Protect can bring to the community, things that work, things that are being developed, and things that you can adapt in your city, regions, countries. So thank you. And you provided an interesting step to our next speaker, Stefano Bagli from Ecosistema, who's going to tell us a bit more about some of the technical Earth observation data sources that are there to help us address climate change. Same rules, I'll start shouting at when you've got coming to the end of your 5 minutes slot, Stefano. Over to you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Mark. Thanks a lot for inviting me at this very interesting webinar. So thinking at the climate services, we can identify three main components of a climate service. First one are data, and data are Earth observation data. The second pillar are models, so we should be able to convert the data into valuable information in indicator, for example, or in maps that can support the end users to take the final decisions. And the third component are visualization and also support decision tools that can support the end users in visualizing and also in taking the final decision. So the data are the basement of a climate service. So without data, it's not possible to set up a climate services. And related to that, when we are speaking with Earth observation, we can include two types of information. The first one are remote based, so the space-based. Space-based means that are remote sensed information collected by satellite. And now, thanks to several initiatives at the European level, but also at global level, we have a plenty of data that every day comes available and are also available to the climate service developers. So, for example, the Copernicus initiative of European Commission, supported by ESA, the European Space Agency, has the availability of data collected by, for example, the Sentinel mission. So Sentinel mission is a family of 6, will become 7 and 8 in the next years. It's a family of satellites that are able to collect data about the atmosphere, about the soil, about the water resources at high resolution. So these are one of the main sources of satellite data. And then we have, in the terms of Earth observation, we have also the ground-based data that can be collected by sensors that are ground-based, like rain gauges or weather station. We have also other other data collected by balloons, for example, in order to collect the characteristic of the atmosphere in the upper air, for example. And all this data and also the model data that are using as an input the measurements can be a fundamental element in order to set up climate services. And there is inside the Copernicus another initiative that is more focused on ground-based data or model data, that is Copernicus Climate Change Service, C3S. In C3S, you will find the possibility to download, to visualize a huge amount of data through the Copernicus Climate Data Store. So the Climate Data Store is already a first first climate service in an embryonal phase. So you have a simplified interface that help you to download all the essential climate variable, but also quite complex indicator that can be computed through the platform. You are able to visualize, inspect, and also even download the data for your study area. So these are the main data sources that should a climate service look at. And in particular, through the Copernicus, we have also the climate projection. We have both seasonal forecasts that can be used for short-term, medium, long-term projection. For example, these information are very useful in the field of agriculture. For example, if you want to set up a climate service related to irrigation or to agriculture, you need seasonal forecast. Or we have also
1 minute, Stefano.
Yeah. Or we have also the climate projection, looking at 2050 or the next or more. And yeah. In the Protect project, we are involved as a technical consulting activity, and I think one of the most important in selecting the data is also to evaluate the skills of the data, so the quality of the data that you are using in order to set up or buy the climate services. So, and this can be done only if there are available also local data. So we should somehow downscaling and bias correct the data in order to have a good skill in terms of projection, at the end, good skill in terms of climate service. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Stefano. I think you see from this last speaker, the complementary resources that Protect can provide the community. And so we hope to be able to cover all type of questions and issues, from the detailed technical to the policy challenges and to the tools that are there to facilitate the innovation procurement actions. We've got short 5 minutes for questions. There have been a number of you have been asking questions and we're getting responses from the speakers. So thank you to the speakers using the chat. Does anybody want to raise their golden hand and ask a question directly? As I said, all of these resources that you're seeing going through the chat will be also on our web page, and my colleague Eva will present shortly. But are there any burning questions from the audience? I know we've got our project officer Isabella Freitag, so don't hesitate to shout out a question, Isabella, if you want to add any insights from your perspective. Now is the time. Any questions? Isabel, I can see you're on screen.
I can take the I can take the floor, and no, I think thank you to all the speakers. I think it was a very interesting presentation, and indeed, as you have mentioned it, so this PCP, the call for the PCB will be in the work program of 2024, but will be published more probably this work program will be published with the 2023 work program by the end of November.
That's a good timing for it. What we're doing with Protect is going to run in parallel to this. I think it's even more important that the community, the stakeholders participate, and you will see in the next couple of slides that the offer that is tailored, not only thanks to you responding to our questionnaire, and a number of you have already done so, but also some of the workshops that Annabelle and Tam highlighted, and accessing the resources of the network that you see presented in some of our partners. So I'm going to try and keep on track almost, and we had some questions, but I think you've been asking them and getting some answers. But while we're running up through the last few slides, if there are any of these questions that really hit a note, hit a specific point with you, don't hesitate to put it into the chat, and then we can either follow up during this call or have an email exchange thereafter. But you can see that these are some of the points that will appear in the questionnaire, that you had the link at the beginning, and you'll get it again at the end, that can help us help you. It sounds a bit pompous, but it's the best way if we work together. And in these type of CSAs, as Isabella said, things move quickly because they're going into the already launching the work program with a concrete opportunity for turning climate services into the reality of public procurement. I suggest, Eva, so we can keep the time, that you now give us a quick wrap up on the different activities and the means with which the community can get in touch and stay engaged. Eva, the floor is yours. There we are.
Yes, hello everyone. Sorry, I had to take off the screen to be able to share my microphone and my video. So yeah, it's my pleasure also to be part of this webinar, and I'd like to give you a very quick glance at what is a service that we're trying to set up for you. We're going to set up a community of procurers. So the idea is to give you the opportunity to be part of a group of people who have similar needs, questions, and that are interested in collaborating on public procurement. So as you have heard several times, we're going to prepare through Protect the ground for pre-commercial procurement that we launched then in 2024 in the work program, as Isabel just kindly said. And we really want to be at the service of public authorities that are facing similar challenges related to climate change, of course. And we are setting up this community of procurers to give you the opportunity to exchange with the peers who have the same challenges, for example, coming from cities, regions, or other kind of public organizations from different countries all over Europe. So I've put here on the slide a link where you can already indicate your interest. It's on our website that is freshly established, and we do not have so far the community management platform ready, but it will be launched soon. And this is the first step to share your interest in becoming part of the community of procurers. And on the basis of your interest that you give us through this web link, we will of course keep in touch with you and inform you once our service is launched. So now, why should you join the Protect community? Of course, I wanted to give you first a glimpse on that. And of course, it's related to all the activities and services that we are setting up in Protect. And I, and also, of course, the other partners will be happy to answer any questions you might have with regard to the specific services that you're setting up. So we give you, as part of the community of procurers, the support to define and aggregate the clear and realistic needs for climate services. So that's the first part of our activity. We gather information related to your needs through the online service, through exchange with you, and help you to define them really more specifically. The community will be the opportunity for you to share experience that you have or receive information from others who have experience, and to really share good practices and exchange with peers from other regions, other countries, all over the European countries, of course. We will provide targeted training and, of course, also share all the knowledge that we can gather and fresh information related to environmental observation, climate services, and innovation procurement you've seen that we have very good experts part of the team, and these experts will be setting up the training activities and the knowledge exchange activities. We will also give you insights into the climate services market providers' existing and future solutions and technologies. So that means that we will be in touch with technology providers that work with environmental observation and Earth observation data, and we will make sure that you get information on what's existing, what can be solutions that could possibly answer your needs in your region, your territory, let's say. And of course, through the fact that you become part of our community, you get first information, really firsthand, even before it's publicly launched, let's say. You will be ideally positioned to participate later in the PCP when it's being launched. You will already have the contacts with other authorities that have same interests, same needs, and of course you will have the possibility to set up collaboration with them even before the call is launched, and then of course you will be really ready when the call is open. Now, just a few key dates for you to remember for what is coming up in Protect. This is timeline over the next, say 18 months or so. So we're at the stage where we identify the challenges that you're facing and the needs that you have with regards to climate services, and that's mainly done through an online survey. It has been mentioned several times, so here again the opportunity to see the link, and we'll be happy to get your feedback. We're currently setting up, and that is a continuous activity, of course. We are setting up the Procures community, and we will really start the awareness raising campaigns and the activities that relate to capacity building for this community. Then I think Mark has mentioned it very quickly. We're very happy to announce that in November we will be part of the Smart City Expo World Congress that's taking place in Barcelona. It's a very big exposition and congress, very interesting for cities and other kind of public authorities. And we will have a half-day event there that's structured as a conference, but there will also be possibilities of exchange, of course, with our experts. It will be a great opportunity for you to join us there, and we hope to have all of you with us on that date. It's on 17th of November this year. Then throughout 2023, starting in spring, let's say, we will be fine-tuning, of course, the needs that we have gathered through additional data that we are gathering, and we will make sure to organize what we call pinpoint workshops. So we will be in touch with you through different kind of events, mostly virtually, to support you and to gather further insights from you. We will have then starting September, so more or less in 1 year, we will have open market consultations where we have climate service and technologies vendors, which will be hopefully addressing the needs that you have. And then, of course, we as a project team will prepare. We will help prepare the documentation that's related to the PCP tendering, and we will always keep you informed of any public element that is part of it, so you're ready when the PCP is launched. I hope that gives you a first glimpse on what we're planning, and I hope it's interesting to you. So of course, we hope you will become part of our community. So please stay in touch through social media and our website. And when we have our community ready, we will make sure to inform you as well. Of course, if you have any question, happy to answer, and also other partners ready to answer, of course.
Thank you, Eva. Well, we waited 2 minutes to start and we finished only 1 minute over time. So great timekeeping, all of you. You can see there's a lot that's being planned for you, and the engagement, and whether you're a stakeholder, whether you're a service provider, plenty of opportunities. I would add one further point, is that feel free to invite any member of the consortium to your events. We've got lots of talented speakers, as you've seen, with knowledge, and can maybe help, sometimes we know, convince local and regional stakeholders. Sometimes you need outside perspectives. So don't hesitate to reach out and invite us. We know we can travel. Some members of the team will be in an event in Harlem next month. Well, no, actually in November. Others, as Eva said, will be joining us in Barcelona. So we're very much willing to join you, help collectively meet this challenge that goes way beyond our little screens and goes into the communities that we live in. And I think the Protect team is a committed team, and I think we're doing this out of a passion as well as being hopefully adding some new knowledge and direction to the activities that you're doing. So we said we'd finish, so I'll stop waffling on. We'll have a recording of the webinar on our website, so you can go there. You can then share it with colleagues, and all the presentations will obviously be made available again. So thank you again to my wonderful panel and speakers, and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Have a nice
much.
day.
Thank you. Bye.